See now.
Oh no.
What do you got, Kelin?
Nothing like talking about
What do you
how
got,
annoyed
Kelin?
you are and the mute button was on.
What do you got, Kelin? Kelin, what do you got?
I'm a little afraid to talk right now.
Why?
I don't have anything.
Nothing.
Joe's in a real bad mood.
Yeah.
And you know what that mute button was like?
What?
You know how people say it's only when you're annoyed and pissed off that like your shirt will get caught on a doorknob or something and you're like, God.
Yeah.
That's what that was.
I punched many doors and windows with just complete anger.
You said you're at annoyance level 11 only to find the mute button was on. Exactly.
But I didn't explode. I took it in stride as just to be expected.
Yeah.
With, you
didn't smash the computer.
All right. So we talked about Lordstown and the data center.
Yeah.
Got a lot of engagement on that. A lot of comments from people who, injected myself into the conversation, and it's proper for me to do so, and maybe elevate how we talk about these things. But I'm annoyed with the low level of engagement, and so I printed a bunch of comments from yesterday, and I'm going to respond to those. I didn't want to waste the keystrokes at the time. So Jerry says, Joe just wanted to backtrack on yesterday's show. Data centers are a good thing for specific skilled jobs within tech and operations sector. The industry itself is very stable long-term. However, they are not a major source of mass employment for an entire local community once the construction phase is over. And I will comment. Jerry, just stay tuned because that is on my list. So I'm going to read a couple of these. And so basically, for those of you who didn't see yesterday's program, let me give you sort of like the Cliff's Notes of what was discussed. So basically, we have an industry of AI. I believe it is equal to that of the Industrial Revolution, where we're going to make stuff, right? So yesterday's building cars and making steel is today's setting up data centers and having tech-minded people and engineers controlling them, right? Huge amounts of money, vast amounts of money are being spent in communities all over the country. I live in a community that instead of saying, hey, let's get a piece of this and let's be involved, you have a bunch of people who are like, I don't know why I'm supposed to hate this, but I absolutely going to be inconvenienced. I just know it. And I don't want anything to do with it. Right. And it annoys me because that is the lowest level of objection. Right. At least you can object. Right. But at least object with proper cause. Yeah. That's all I ask. Right.
Like, know what it is. Exactly. Know what you're talking about before you form an objection.
Yes. Right. Okay. So I believe there are things in this debate that people have real reasonable objections to, which could be fielded on another part of a negotiation. But to mindlessly and ignorantly object to things, that's where I get annoyed. So speaking of ignorant objections, let me read a couple of these ignorant objections to you.
These are real ones that we saw.
These are real. These are people. I'm not going to name any names because it's not fair to them.
Okay.
First one's Alicia. Okay. You realize how much water is used to cool down AI computers, don't you? Right? Yes, Alicia. Yes, it does require cooling to keep computers cool.
Yeah.
And if you read some of the articles of the technologies that are being entertained, is a closed loop system. Do you know what a closed loop system? What does it suggest in a closed loop system? So your radiator in your car is a closed loop system.
Okay.
Right? Don't you know how much water? Like there are gallons and gallons a minute going through your engine to keep it cool. In a closed system, it's the same water that is circulating through the radiator where it throws off the heat, dissipates heat through your radiator. And then once it's cooled down, it circulates back through the engine. Closed loop means that you don't take a big fire hose and put it in a lake or stream, suck all the water out, and then expel that water into the system. And then you're going to use it all up. There's just not enough of it. So Miss Alicia, yes, it does use a lot of water. And yes, they have a technologies to deal with.
Do you want to address this guy saying it's open?
What's open?
The system? Is that what he means?
It's not an open system. No, what's being suggested by this plan and proposal is a closed loop system. They did a proof of concept. It is a closed loop system. There are data centers that have open loops right? For instance, XAI.
He says, LOL, I'm joking.
Oh.
Listen, don't make Joe angrier this morning.
So there are like XAI, which is another company that is opening data centers. Okay. And they have an open loop system. So they have a retaining pond or open access to a body of water. They're sucking in the water, right? They're using the water, and then they are purifying it. So in the areas are actually getting better water than what it sucked off, and it's actually doing an environmental good when it's not contaminated. The best argument you can make is that the water is a different temperature as when it was drafted off. So if you get like algae blooms or something that can change the ecology, they're going to have to cool the water down before it goes into another retention pond, the purified water, allow it to come back down to the normal temperature, and then put back into the body of water that it came. All technologies like these are conversations that need to be had, not stupid comments like, don't you know how much water they use? Okay, sorry, Alicia, you were just the first on the top of the pile. And that's why. Okay, here's a comment. Homer City, Pennsylvania is the new home to a new natural gas powered electric generating plant that will power 4 data centers in the nearby areas. Total costs are estimated to be $25 billion. That's a lot of construction jobs and tax revenue. I don't know what the long term looks like, but AI is going to reconfigure the workforce and eliminate jobs. We all should be taking this into consideration. Fair point. Completely reasonable deal. So if you look around the country and you see that you have capacity for something, you're using only 50% of the power that's being generated. And so then a big company comes along and says, I want to put a factory and I want to use. I'm willing to pay a premium for the power. I'll pay 5 cents more kilowatt hour, but you've got the capacity for me. Let's use it up, right? So a resident, reasonable objections. Hey, we have to make sure that you're only buying surplus. You're not going to compete against us and make our consumption go higher. Yeah. So then you look at your officials and say, let's have an energy policy that increases production of power across the country. AI is going to force every community to find reasons to not just do residential consumption of power. They're going to be like, we got these thirsty AI data centers. They will fund the expansion of powering our own communities instead of looking to, like, we don't need to be closing nuclear facilities and natural gas facilities. We need to be creating a bunch more because we've got thirsty customers. What if we just created a power plant and kept it completely separate from the residential grid, right? You need a lot of power. You're going to drop a couple $2 billion, build enough power for yourselves and make that a predicate to you building in our community. Again, beginning of conversations, good point. Now, the AI replacing jobs is a 5 years ago discussion, right? Yeah. So let's just say, all right, we're like, no, AI is going to take our jobs. We're not going to build in Lordstown. Play that out a little bit. So you're not going to do it. Do you think AI is going to be like, whoa, hold up. Lordstown decided not to do it. Let's effing pull nix this. The plug. So taking advantage of the inevitable, like, do you want to slice it? Okay, so yes, in the grand scheme of things, you disagree with the philosophy of AI taking over jobs, right? Fine. But in the grand scheme of things, are you going to pick no involvement and go live on the reservation, or try to make as much money from it and as much prosperity with what's being presented to you?
Yeah. Prepare yourself for what's inevitable.
Accordingly. Yes. Damn it. This person says, I guess this guy has no clue about data centers. Yeah. Okay. All right. The cluelessness that's on this side of the microphone must be astounding for you to come to the conclusion that I don't even know what a data center is.
You sound like you don't know anything about this, Joe.
Nothing about it.
Clearly.
So what? Okay, this person, I'm not going to name you because I forgot to copy
you don't
paste
have
it.
Years of
but
tech
tell
experience.
Me what I'm missing. All right. Tell me about data centers of which I don't understand. Bring another comment because I'm super curious. I'm shaking with adrenaline, as pissed off as I am.
Oh my God.
Just imagine moving companies in that have such a negative impact on the community that it far outweighs the benefits, not to mention the million of gallons of fresh water they need to run, and that's daily consumption. No thanks, go away. Okay. The negative impact, and again, part of the conversation. You dream up and fantasize about all the ways that your community has got downside risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to trade a little bit of inconvenience for some kind of prosperity. Now, Lordstown specifically, but I'm not going to isolate Lordstown. I'm going to Hubbard as well. I'm going to any community that doesn't have a clue, literally doesn't have a clue about why they're so mad about this happening, and teach them to object intelligently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the negative impacts of the community. So if there's a company willing to spend billions of dollars, right? You know what billions of dollars buys? A lot of mitigation of those inconveniences. So you're going to put up demands of what, not that we don't want you there because this is going to happen. It's we don't want this to happen. So
what are you going to do to prevent it?
Exactly. And that's part of the negotiation, is saying we're willing to invite you in, but we want to make sure that all of our concerns are taken seriously. That wasn't a bad one. Okay. You have no idea what you're talking about as far as what's going into Lordstown. None of it was good. That's why we residents all asked our council to vote against it. I do kind of know what's happening in Lordstown, and it's not all great. There's some things that the residents need to take a stance on. And we watched as the dumb Lordstown Council is also the dumb Youngstown City Council. So a company came into town and said, hey, you guys need some hot water to, heat your buildings downtown. We got an idea. We're going to create a boiler system that does it. We got your back on it. We got your heating going. Part of our business is we got an idea for reusing tires, shredding up tires, putting them in a closed system, right? Where we create energy, we burn things to create energy, heating energy, electrical energy possible, and whatnot. Right. Mm-hmm. And so cool. City got what they wanted. And then the company was ready to start exploration of doing this. They got EPA certifications. They got permitted to do it. It's all safe and whatever. And the city council put a moratorium on it for a year. Right. And then they renewed the moratorium for another year. So I love moratoriums. It's basically saying, hey, we're city council. We need more information. We need to have more advisory. We need to have more research done on it. And then we're going to come back to you and we're going to readdress the permit. But when cities use moratoriums to be stubborn, and they don't go and do exploration into it, right? They're just using it to be an obstacle for business being done. That's where I object. So in Lordstown, like I'm going to throw my hat in the ring there, and they did ban it. I'm going to call it a moratorium. They gave themselves a year where they're not going to be open to bringing it. And in that year, I'm going to check to see what's being explored, who they're talking to, what new information they've gathered, how they're addressing the concerns of the citizens. And if it's like we get to a year and say, yeah, we didn't really even put a report together, we didn't hire anybody to look into this, I don't want to visit a year from now and being exactly where we're at right now. So I'm going to put pressure on us to actually explore it and teach people how to do this negotiation and what research to put into it and who to bring into the conversation. So we're informing the public, not just being an obstacle to business. Sorry, I'm coming down from the hype. Seriously, this person thinks we should trust the companies that have a track record of being a nuisance and not caring about the communities they're in. Of course, everyone wants AI. We really do need to trash up our own communities for things we want, though. I'll let you respond to this one.
We really need to, what was that last bit? Trash up our communities?
Yeah, trash up our communities for the sake of putting a data center for AI. Seriously, this person thinks we should trust companies. Should you trust companies?
Not completely, but like you said, ask questions, see the data. What is it you're doing? What's the information? What are the, what's the word I'm looking for? Precautions that are in place. Like,
my answer is no, you do not trust companies. You know who you trust? Your family. Maybe some of your neighbors, people who have extended to you that they deserve your trust. You trust no one else.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't do business with people. You negotiate and you contract and you have agreements.
Can't look into something.
Right. And so, no, I'm not saying that you're like, oh, we're this we're coming from a position of weakness and we want business so bad, we're just going to let a company come in and do whatever they want and trash our communities. Did somebody suggest that should be the strategy? Did anybody say
Not
that
that
let's
I
be
know
vulnerable, invite them in and let them do
Let them
whatever they want, right?
want.
No,
Who
intelligent people get in
cares?
a room and they hash out their differences. They both make agreements of what they're going to come through and they stick to those agreements. And if they go off the path where they don't honoring their agreements, they're in breach, and then you stop them from doing whatever it is doing. That is how business is done. But we got a bunch of normies that don't understand that we don't all have to be friends, and we can still get some stuff done through opposition, right? And negotiation and contract agreements.
That's that, like I mentioned yesterday, the all or nothing mindset. You're in or you're out. It's all in or all out. No discussion, no questions asked. It's for us or against us, that whole dumb mindset.
Okay, how did the moratorium work out in the city of Youngstown regarding Sobe? I didn't complete the circuit on that thing. They put a moratorium on it. They starved the company who was supplying energy for downtown heating, and then the company had their boiler that was doing the favor part of the agreement got repossessed by that company. And then we had 27 buildings that didn't have any heat. And now the city had to scramble, probably cost them more money. So they gave up the tax revenue on having an energy producer close by that, serving a need, right? And now that I don't know if it's I don't know if the city bought the boiler. I don't know if they strong-armed the company to do it. I don't know if somebody else stepped up. Total radio silence on how it is that after they put that company out of business, how they have a boiler that heat these buildings. I don't know. It's another mystery to look into. Mystery. Okay, here we go. This is another one challenging Joe's intellect. I love these are my favorite. Educate yourself before you spew misinformation about this. Utility bills go up, a burden on many. Health issues, including heart, autoimmune, and cancers. Nothing to joke about until it affects your family. Awful, you laugh about it. Sick.
These real people or are these trolls?
Maybe they're bots.
It might be a bot.
Maybe
it might be just
maybe they're bots,
bait.
but they're. I can hear the sentiment. I can hear the clacking of the keyboards typing this and
Although usually the most ignorant are the loudest, so it could be real.
Yeah.
But.
So yes, are there health ramifications for any new thing that you do? You put up a racetrack, you put up a shopping mall, you put up literally anything. And there are consequences and costs to those things that could be mitigated by smart, important people taking them serious. And then smart people on the other side, making it known that that's a complete requirement of doing business with you. Insulate me from the thing that I know is going to ill affect the people that live around me if you were to do it.
I'd love for these people to pitch an idea of what do you suggest we bring to our area that is going to be good for business, good for jobs, zero downside, no health threats, no safety concerns, no inconveniences, nothing that's going to annoy anyone. And it's just going to cause prosperity and money to all with zero downside.
Yeah, but it's the age-old tale of communities that benefited from the previous generation's willingness to take risk and do things. Like, would there be a village of Lordstown if they didn't manufacture cars right down the road? How many health ramifications happen because you have a auto manufacturer down the street? This isn't any different. This is just a different industry. I'll hear if the community says they don't want something after they've gone through all of the details. Fine, right? Yeah. I don't even necessarily think that the company that wants to put the data center is probably our best suitor. I think there are other AI companies that do it a little bit different, but it's going to be an embarrassment by the time the suitor does take notice of us. If this is our attitude going into it, we're going to embarrass ourselves and we're never going to get them.
Yeah. If a company is like, I've got a great model, I've got a great way of doing it, and I can address all your concerns, but I already know you're unwilling.
Exactly.
So I'll take it elsewhere.
And that's why I'm embarrassed for our area more than I disagree that they don't want it. Communities can decide for themselves. As long as it's an educated decision, I don't even care. Because there will be somebody who will scoop this project up in 2 seconds. I just want to make sure that they know what they're passing so that there's no regret talk down the road. I'm properly suited for this debate because if you look at it from the very beginning of my career, I got involved in computers when they were not they were not fiscally feasible for most companies to bring technology into their offices. So I had to pitch it to a bunch of people who thought that they wanted to do paper invoicing and do everything paper. What's this digital thing? Like, nobody's going to use this. This is going to be expensive, and it's going to cause
overly
carpal
complicated.
Tunnel. It's going to be all of my staff are going to, complain about it. We're going to hate it. Let's not do it. Right. And so I had those people who were like, hey, listen, you can still decide that. You want filing cabinets and paper. I'm just telling you what everybody else is going to do. And you're not stopping this train. It is actually going to happen. And it might even suck when it's in its infancy, but all of the things that happen because it got brought into town, they're going to be things you're going to benefit for. But the warning that I'm going to give you is that all of your competition is going to do it. And it's going to be more efficient, and they're going to have more. So it might not be what you want to do, but you're going to be a little bit more lonely every year as your competition does it. There will be a day where you're going to be so far behind of what everybody else is doing. You're going to wonder why everybody else, when they deal with them, is up the standards of what it's like to do business. And you're this cumbersome, annoying person who's a stickler to, I want it to be paper and pen. Right. As long as you know that going in, I don't want to ever hear you complain about how your competition can run faster and do stronger things than you. When you're choosing this today.
Why are we stifled? Why are we not advancing?
Exactly.
Why do we not have what other towns have?
Okay. Do you know what it does to the local water supply? The electricity prices will go through the roof because of the demand required by the center. Communities will have allowed them are now limited in water supply. The water is used to cook the servers and then is unusable. I'm glad they voted it down. AI is dangerous and will lead to less jobs, not more. I think I've kind of responded to that. Closed systems are you put the water in there the first time, the system just recirculates the water. The original filling of the system probably is taxing, but the ongoing cost of the water supply, and it's not unusable, by the way. Closed system doesn't dump back in. Even the open system, if the water comes out more pure when you dump it back in, is it unusable?
If it's more pure,
where they put it through a filtration system. So any contaminants that were in there prior to be sucked in are gone. And it's just pure water.
That sounds not a bad thing.
Okay. Lordstown are here. No one, no matter where they live, should want AI anywhere near their country. It's a vessel used mightily by the devil to deceive people. AI and other evil technologies are the foundation for an eventual mark of the beast economy. Again, the 5 years ago conversation.
I'd love to talk to that person and point out all the technology they are probably using today.
The devil technology.
Yes.
It's not regular technology. It's all devil technology. There really aren't going to, they are really not going to be a lot of jobs that come from the center. They are trying to force on Lordstown. There will only be like 100 jobs, and most of them will be remote. So the employees won't even be here in the community. And the problems it will bring are going to far outweigh any good that would come of it. Any community members of towns where these centers are proposed had better do their homework before they start saying yes to this. And I will agree with that. Do your actual homework. And, Lordstown is used to concentrations of labor, right? They saw 10,000 people show up to work on cars, and a data center is basically a room full of computers. So you're going to build it, and you're going to put the servers in there, and there are going to be engineers that monitor those servers to make sure they're still doing servering. But there aren't required a whole lot of people. Maybe I heard 50 ongoing. So maybe a couple hundred to put the thing together and roll out the operations. And then it's kind of much on autopilot where you need 50 people to kind of pay attention and whatever. So if you're saying, okay, the benefit of Lordstown for this center would be tax revenue, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to get a little bit, not what you're used to with 10,000, payroll down at the car facility or car manufacturing facility. But I in the future, all industry are going to be limited to the number of people it takes to do a job. And I don't necessarily think you're fighting against something that is inevitable, where workforces are going to become more efficient. You're going to need less of them. So a facility that has 50, I'm not going to scoff at 50 jobs, especially if they're in IT. And if they're done remotely, I can also see that happening like every other industry that there is. So maybe your biggest leverage point is not that this facility is the one and only, right? But if I see it, if you are participating in an industry that grows and then does add more people or more facilities or then more support structures and infrastructure that comes along with that, you might have a long-term benefit that you can't even picture at this point. So as long as the measly 50 jobs that it creates does give you a net benefit, and if it's attractive enough to look at the costs that, if you had, let's just say down the road from you, they decided to put one of these things, totally noise insulated, so you don't even hear it. It's not messing with your electricity. They figured out how to power it themselves without messing with you. It's not outputting any kind of contaminated water into your streams. You drive by it every day, and it doesn't even have a building on it. And I say, hey, that building that you don't even really know what it is. It's not even branded. It's not a retail place. It's just a server room, right? And there's 50 jobs there. If it doesn't do any of the things that you're afraid of, right? And it's 50 jobs, are the 50 jobs worth it?
That was kind of going to be my question is, what number makes it worth it for someone? Like, it's only 50. It's only 100. It's only, and I get the whole idea of like what it costs to run versus the jobs it's making and all that. But like, then what if they said it's going to make 1,000 jobs? Does that make the risks worth it? What if they said it's going to be 3,000 jobs? Does that make the risks worth it? Like, when people do that, it's only so many jobs and that's their only downside. I'm just like,
well, my kid makes arguments like this because it obviously you don't want something and you're just trying to invent reasons. So you had the same person with two conversations apart. They said, we don't want this there because of all the traffic for all of these new employees driving up and down our streets. We don't want all this extra traffic. At the same time, it's only 50. It's only 50 jobs and half of them are going to be remotely. So do you want people to come there and have a job and clog your streets? Or do you want it to be remote and only be 50 jobs?
It's only 50 jobs. Okay, we'll create more jobs, but then it's too much traffic. All right, then we'll just make sure it's only 50. But that's not enough. Oh, then we'll make it remote. Well, that's not worth it.
Yeah, like they just want to disagree, and that's just I don't know. It's just the most annoying part. Let's see how did that one already. Hard lines. Okay, define the hard lines that are not to be crossed. Then negotiations can begin. Yeah, that's exactly right. You square up. You have people, a representative from the project, sit down on one side of the table. You have intelligent people sitting on the other side of the table that are open to anything, right?
Yeah.
And you hash it out. Our constituents, these are the most important thing. Hard line here. Can you hit it? Yes, no. Yes, we can hit it. We promise to hit it. We'll contract to hit it. We'll make sure that we hit it. Cool. We have an agreement. But the hard line isn't we don't want this and we're just digging for a reason to tell you no. That makes it really unattractive. So why is Lordstown attractive to this? You have any idea?
No.
So
I don't know much about it.
These AI companies need to place thousands of data centers. So the low-hanging fruit are places that have utility connections, right? They have zoning that allows for this type of business activity and low utility rates, low labor rates. We check all the boxes for what makes us most attractive. The only thing that's not attractive is we're stubborn as can be. And we're a little bit of a pain in the ass. That's really it.
Do you think really what it boils down to is a group of people, a certain demographic that only knows this thing equals AI? That scares me. I don't understand it. Done. And they don't care if it makes sense. They don't care if it brings prosperity. They don't even really care about all the little like potential risks and is there a way to solve those or avoid those? They just are like, hey, this is a way to bring AI, and that's a scary thing to me, and I don't want it.
Yeah, it's like Thanksgiving dinner, having all of your relatives over and trying to talk about like a really complicated thing you know a lot about, and then you watch someone on your couch say, I don't like this because blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't even engage because there's nothing they're going to add to what I know, and there's no way that I'm going to change their mind at all. And so I'd rather not have the conversation, but those people actually have a say in what gets done. And that's dangerous. Let the smart people figure this stuff out and let everybody else be presented to and overcome those things. I mean, but again, if Lordstown doesn't want it and we dig up all the stuff and the people are like, we just don't want it. Cool. I don't mind.
Well, Julie asked, did the company address citizens' concerns? Do we know if they actually did? Or do you just know about the concerns from looking into what this is?
The part of the project that was presented was before all of this happened. The response since the October 3rd meeting, there really hasn't been much in the way of them saying anything back. Because I don't think, I mean, you're a company and you got shit to do. You got to build 1,000 of these things, and they put a year moratorium. What would you do as the company that just got shut down, that it's not even an option for another year? Would you continue to fight, or would you just move on to the next community?
Probably find another place.
Yeah, 100%. So I don't expect any kind of fielding concerns because we did it in bad faith.
Don't you think that the moment this idea was even pitched, they addressed, hey, here's what we already know you're going to be worried about. So let's get that addressed now. Like, I find it hard to believe that this subject of this company, business idea, whatever, came up without any discussion of, I already know what you're going to be concerned. Let me tell you about that. Like, I'm sure something was addressed right out the gate.
Oh, but no, I can see it not. Okay. So if you've got 1 million dating partners, right, and you're just going through your list, how much time are you going to invest to try to win them over before you're just looking to either strike them off the list or not? Right.
Ah, so you think it was maybe a quick pitch because they got other options.
For sure.
Like, here's what I'm doing, yes or no. I don't have time to talk you into it.
Right.
It's already happening here or somewhere else.
Right. Exactly.
So don't waste my time.
Go down to the next list. Don't waste a bunch of time. So I could very easily see that there's a lot of blame to handle it. Do they need you more than you need them is the deal.
That's a good
And if they only needed you because you were, I already have my list. Like if you look up what cops have said about you on your official record, right? It says, so they go to their computers and they run your thing and they see every mistake that you've ever made, right? And next to it, it says, this guy's a real asshole. When you're dealing with him, he's a menace and whatever, right? And so when they pull up the prospective sites for our deal, they go to Lordstown and it says, these people, all they do is complain. They want anything there. So give them like 30 seconds.
Like when your Uber driver can rate you.
Exactly. And so like this part, they're too much of a pain in the ass. So give them 30 seconds, see if they're interested. If not, move down to Tennessee. Nashville really wants it. Youngstown, it's good. We'll probably make a lot of money there.
Like in sales, is this a warm lead? Is this a cold lead?
We're a very cold lead.
Yeah.
We're a very cold lead. And so like where they still have to mail it in, I can see them doing a half-hearted attempt. Like, hey,
we'll give you a chance, but we're going to go ahead and court these other people. It's probably a better area anyways. And if you're too icy to this, I'm not wasting my time.
Right. So I could see that as being, the reason why they didn't heavily or overly invest. Although they did a proof of concept data center within the Foxconn building to prove out that it can be done. And here's what it'd be like and whatever. So they at least invested a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure they did something.
Yes.
How did that go?
Good. It was a while ago. I remember when it was first happening, but I didn't really hear who got to like, I would have loved to go visit the facility, see what it's going to look like, see what technology, see what they had in mind, whether this is a hokey low dollar operation or this is something that, I pictured in my brain as how, if I were going to do it well, how it would be. And I was interested to see if this is low dollar operation or high dollar operation. Let's read some comments before I get to the other yesterday's comments. Okay, there's no such thing in life and in business as a zero downside while it brings prosperity and wealth. Yeah, and when you have risk takers, if you're an entrepreneurial community, it means that we have a tolerance for how much risk we're willing to take. And if you have a anti-capitalist labor union mentality, you are pickers, right? You see a trough that somebody else created and you want to get you some of that, and you don't really want to be inconvenienced. You just want what you feel you're entitled to. So it's a mentality shift.
If we're not meant to be an entrepreneurial area, why do we have a business incubator?
One day I will share that, but I don't feel like being mad on two different topics.
That was my little fanning the flame of you.
I'm not going to let you bait me. They don't want change. The town is stuck in the 70s. I live here. Well, Melanie, and that's the thing. And that is, you are free to decide that. So let's just say your village only exists because of industrialization, right? And you made all of yours. Houses got built, property got expanded, schools, fire, all that kind of stuff. The prosperity of 50 years ago made your village happen. So you can either romance it and say, hey, we want to do that again, or that disappears. And then we try to, try to cannibalize whatever does come through there, pretend like it's the thing that delivered all of that prosperity, hold them all to that standard, but in an oppressive way. Like GM could tolerate and survive everything that the community's union mentality delivered to it because it was super prosperous. A new company comes through that aren't as prosperous. Well, they can't tangle with you because there's not more to give than they can give. Where GM could just filter tons of money into Lordstown and carry that load without them. The battery facility or TJ Maxx or whatever else they put over there aren't as dense as what the steel mills did and what the car manufacturing did. And so like it's not going to humble them. I assure you, everybody's aged in that community. They have theirs. They're pretty solid. They can figure with the revenue that's coming in right now. You don't really want a disruptor to come into town and create, the next generation jobs for the people who are just graduating school. But me, I don't live there. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I do want places to exist that somebody coming out of YSU can pick our community over moving to another community.
Yeah.
I want businesses to come here and locate here. I want us to be popular as a choice. Older people don't care about being chosen. They don't want growth. They don't want expansion. They don't want risk taking. They've got theirs and they feel like the next generation needs to, hoe their own trail here. Right.
Yeah. And this is thing that we've already been hearing for years. We've talked to students at YSU that have flat out said, why would I stay here when I graduate?
That's exactly right.
When I moved back to the area, numerous times, people ask me, why would you come back here? Why would you come back here? Now, number one reason we came back was family. Our family is here. Our parents are aging. We wanted our kids around their family and grandparents. That was number one. Number two is my husband didn't need to really find a job here. And I was very fortunate to actually find what I was interested in. So we're kind of a unicorn in that. If you aren't fortunate to find exactly what you're interested in, and you're not here to take care of family, why would our students stay here? Why? If we kill every prospect, if we're afraid to grow, if we question everything that might be innovative, like I honestly don't know.
If I've got a 15-year-old that's probably maybe 5-6 years away from picking what he wants to do with his life, do I want my hometown that I love and I want to be prosperous? Do I want him to choose that? Right? Would I, if it's a great place and he can make a lot of money and add to the value of the community? Sure. But right now, hitting the button, whether or not I would send my kid off to a market that's not ours as a good decision, I would right now. And I want to do something to change that.
I know my kids are still fairly young, but my husband made a comment one time, like when the mom and me is like, oh no, my babies are going to stay forever. He's like, you realize like they're probably going to move away. I'm like, why wouldn't they? And that sucks.
Yeah. And we can do something about it by taking the culture and shifting it from the older people that are thinking about themselves and their community and thinking about the next generation and giving them a gift where they were thoughtful enough to give up something that they had so the next generation could feel some of that prosperity. And that's the long and short of it. Dan says on the religious side of the house, we should always ask the 3 R's: receive, reject, redeem. Can we receive AI as it is, or should it be rejected? If rejected, are we able to redeem it and use it for change, for something good? That's in reference to the devil technology guy. It's a good point. And honestly, that's why I think we're beyond the rejected stage, because you were not a group big enough to stop it from happening. So it's going to happen. So the next one is to use it to your ability. So if you look at it with the internet, before the internet, vice was harder than it is today. Mm-hmm. The internet, if you give people the ability to do things, they can do it faster and with more accessibility, right? So pornography loves the internet, right?
Yeah.
It's used in a way. So now if you're a religious person and you want to make a positive effect on the world, could you also use the internet for things that are good? So it's a tool that does not discriminate between good uses and evil uses.
Yeah. It's literally meant to be the neutral thing we put into it.
Exactly.
How it should be used.
So rejecting it because it will be used for evil, lets you off the hook that says learn about it and go use it for good. So it's an equal balance to what is possible.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. That was thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question to the people saying there won't be an influx of jobs with the data center, what is happening with the Altium cells plant? Higher level in-person staff that are now being laid off, terminated due to the lack of demand. How does in-person staff make any difference? There's still a tax base coming from the new business. And that's interesting. The Altium battery. So long term, if I gave a perspectives on what industries are going to be most valuable. Okay, do you know why Altium was located in Lordstown? The federal government subsidized electric vehicles. The Green New Scam was very popular. Consumers responded by buying in higher volumes than was real. So then all of the supply chains that feed a market that's being subsidized has to provide a lot of stuff. Well, with Trump being president and taking those subsidies away and making it more we'll get a handle on how much, consumer support there are for that technology. You're seeing it as a high when it was free government money coming more in line with what customers are choosing rather than being incentivized into. So you needed a lot of batteries, but Altium was sort of like a one-trick pony in the way they were connected to one thing, right? So you'd have to argue with me that battery development is always going to be electric vehicle connected rather than, in the future, we will have alternative energy sources and we will have more energy production. And somewhere along the line, we're going to have a complete supported system by battery array. Okay. So rather than having a plant fire up and produce all this electricity and sell it on demand directly to people, and when demand goes down, you got to, fire the plant down and respond with the production based on direct consumption. Well, I foresee it as the power plants fire up, they charge the battery arrays then feed into your system, right? So if you've got solar, if your whole community is like, hey, we're going to do solar, but when it's night, it's harder to produce electricity for the people who need electricity. Well, the solar panels don't directly sell it to the end user. They charge batteries all day. And when the users need electricity, they're drawn off of a battery array rather than directly from those alternative energies. And so you can, when you do the battery arrays and those battery banks, then you can use alternative methods because we've changed the way that energy is distributed. And so I foresee in the future way more battery arrays than we have right now. So that would be another industry that we don't even know about, that's not even on the horizon, that Joe foresees as being something that's in our future. So electric cars, all of our electronics, like if we can get the battery technologies to supply cell phone production and, every device that we freaking have has a battery. So if there's if you're being honest about it, where are those batteries coming from? Right? They're coming from countries that, have labor that costs 29 cents and have no environmental regulations. Would you like to maybe claw some of that into the United States and have a battery factory that builds batteries for arrays and cars and phones and everything else?
Come with risks.
I do not think that it's going away.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, we're seeing Altium have a contraction because of the subsidies in the EV market, and that's the best I can say. Okay, Melanie, someone said it was near residential area. It was 2 miles away in my idea. That's not near anything. Plus, someone said it causes cancer as well. At one point, there was also when you have a public forum and people were just allowed to dump their fears, everything that they read on social media or read from somebody else, there's going to be a lot of stuff that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but still a reasonable deal. It could be very easily having someone on the other side of the table field the fear with actual data. Now, do you okay, so if you put up a plan and it makes so much noise and then your house vibrates and things fall off the shelf, that's bad. Nobody wants that. But if that's important to you, that the effects of the vibrations, the frequencies that are being emitted, the hums from the fans or whatever, and you're like, we don't want that. We either got to put that far enough away from people where it doesn't mess with households, or insulate it so that I could be right next to your house and you'll never feel the effects of it because we've contained anything that would, inconvenience you. But that's a negotiation about it.
Yeah.
And so theoretically, not probable, but possible. Could you put something in there that somebody's like, that sucks to be located near my house? Absolutely. And I'm not giving a, carte blanche, do whatever you want, Mr. Business. We have no say in this. We're not going to put stipulations, whatever. No one's suggesting that.
Yeah.
Coming from Central Ohio and dealing in data centers, maybe doing further research would have helped. There are loads of data centers in some of the highest rent districts in Columbus. Maybe checking in with these cities would have helped prior to making a final decision. That is a brilliant point. The United States, we are famous for creating laboratories of exploration. And then we go to those laboratories and we learn from what other people have done. Maybe down in Kentucky, they set up one and they did it poorly. So everybody else should look at what Kentucky did and not say that what Kentucky did is going to happen everywhere. It's here's where they went wrong. Engineers think through it. And if we could go back in our time machine and do it better, what would we do different? Right? So there are cautionary tales that we can learn from, but they are not evidence that it can't be done well. It's just a matter of finding people who are doing it well and emulating the ones that are doing well, shutting down the ones that are not doing well. And that's why I was interested in whether or not this was a well-funded operation. So if this was, the Foxconn set this up and the proof of concept within the building that they purchased from General Motors, right? And the company that is behind this is OpenAI. We talked about him yesterday, Sam Altman, and it's the Stargate project. And if you read through the mission statement of the Stargate project, they're spending $500 billion and expanding compute on all over the country. So we're not talking about, a dozen of these to go learn from. There's thousands of them that have already been built that are close enough for you to drive to and inspect it. So go stand by the building and listen to the vibrations or the sound. Look at the water input and outputs. See if it's being done right. Walk into the facility and see how many engineers are wandering around checking on the facility. Get an idea of what it's really like rather than painting a picture of complete.
Just assuming it's going to be all downside.
Yeah, Melanie, look, and again, I don't think again, part of the permitting process is let the people pick the best location. And if there isn't a good location, fine, come to that conclusion. So don't insist that it's already been picked yet. When there's no contract is signed, there's no foundation being laid. There might be locations. There might be 5 locations in your community that they have spec'd out. Say we could do it here, here. Let's talk about every location and the upside, downside to every location. But again, not been decided. This was the same situation as Sobe, and look what happened. Need to open Higbee's back up and sell jackets to keep downtown employees. They hate change here. But here's what I also don't like about living in this community. Yes, people hate change here. It's because they have so many examples of things going bad ideas being able to be done, and corruption enabling people who have no business operating in your communities to do it. And now you have this evidence list of like the chill can plan.
This didn't work and this didn't work. And so why would this work?
Yeah. And so you basically have given people the foundation to be suspicious of business being done. That suspicion is healthy, but allow that to start curiosities into questioning and being good negotiators and protecting the communities.
Yeah. You can rework the system of bringing in business.
Do it intelligently.
Rather than just stopping all implementation of business.
Yes. All right. How long before the labor unions try and get their wrecking ball hands on the data center cookie jar in this area? It's a fear. It really is. It really is a fear. And again, I don't trust that we have enough intelligent people to hammer out a good balance between what is appropriate and what's not. Labor unions require dense forces of labor in order to be effective. And if it's only 50 people, how are you going to unionize a 50-person, labor facility? And use of technology really gets an end around what labor unions can do to affect that industry. But politics, when it comes into play, could very easily stifle that. So it's a concern, but I think it's a low probability concern. They get the short version of the sales pitch.
Short version.
Yes, short version of the sales pitch if you get the Spaceball reference. Yes, thank you. It was my understanding that there was a committee going to other communities where this company is located. I don't know if that happened. The Stargate company or OpenAI, like this is being funded on a really high, really high level. So tell me what company you have named as being in charge of this. Melanie says, I'm all for it. We need all the jobs we can get here. No one wanted to hear the good stuff about it. Yeah, they've already kind of been decided. I'm pretty sure they just used Google. They fought TJX too. And yeah, that is why I question it in the beginning, because this is a theme where no matter what comes to town, you are going to petition it and try to stop it from happening. So
what's TJX?
There's a warehouse, TJ Maxx facility. They have a distribution facility that basically centralized so that the other TJ Maxxes use this as a hub.
Oh,
yeah.
We wanted that, but.
So my question would be to that person that basically objects no matter what it is if you don't want this, and this, what do you want? Like what industry is safe enough that doesn't cause an inconvenience enough that you will be open to? And then I'll go on the street and I'll start, beating the bushes trying to get some of that interest to come in our direction, but be more specific about what you will tolerate versus not tolerating anything. You should get Mike Malo from Involta Data Center on here, formerly DRS. Their local data centers are on the north side of Youngstown and the other on Southern Boulevard and Boardman, and see what their take is. So I agree. Someone who actually operated a data center would be very helpful in saying what these are about. Bet you didn't know there were 2 data centers that were on corners in the city that you live in. Now, not as high density as what AI requires. The heat is higher. The power input is higher. I mean, in every level, it's a magnitude higher than what a regular commercial grade data center is. But there's a lot of analog in, that type of data center versus this one. So I'd be open to talking to him. Put it in Niles on the old power plant property. It's far enough away from everything. And I'm sure Niles will be at some point. They need so many. You don't understand. Like they need so many of these. I don't think there will be a community that doesn't get some kind of like loose, hey, we're interested in this, and kind of weighing out how warm or cold you are to the idea. And if your community is like, yes, we want more, we want more commerce happening here, they'll be open to it. But if they throw it out there and you're like, we hate this, I'm getting my son.
I want my quiet little town with no change.
Let's see. Bring up Pure Gold. Oh, that's the horse farm. I did not look into it. I got so fixated on this data center.
We forgot about that.
Sorry, Cassie. How could the alleged noise and vibrations, etc., be any worse than what was there when GM was actually producing cars? So here's the way that I see it. I don't know if Brian, I think you've been around technology, but here's where the insanity portion comes into this. So if I walk into a server room, a closed, contained, air-controlled, isolated from noise escaping room, but if I have to work in a server room for more than a couple hours and hear the incessant hum, it is the same octave, the same vibration constantly, you will be driven mad.
Yeah.
You will be driven mad. So with GM and you have the assembly line, you might hear a big bang every once in a while, maybe make some noise, but it's not an incessant hum that will drive you freaking crazy. So that'd be my first question. Hey, you're going to have about 10,000 fans spinning there at high RPM that are the size of a ceiling fan, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to stop that from eking out of your building so that you don't cause the neighbor that's 3 miles away from hearing that incessant hum? And if they're like, hum? I don't know anything about it. I'm like, shut down. No way. If you don't even know how you're going to contaminate what I'm about to hear, not interested. If you're like, yeah, we have ways of mitigating it. Maybe, building lots of insulation. I'll build sound rooms here. I know how to take a room and make it so that sound does not permeate, but vibration is another animal.
Yeah.
Vibration travels down metal. It travels through the air. It travels on anything that it touches. And you better have a good response to how you contain vibrations that way.
Have you ever total sidebar.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard how the profession of dentistry, dentists have such a high suicide rate? Have you ever heard that?
Mm-mm.
Supposedly, it's a field of work with high suicide rates because, one, nobody likes you. Nobody wants to go there. Nobody's happy to be there. Everybody dreads doing it, and that can just wear on your mental health. And two, the incessant zzz on a daily basis.
I'm telling you, the sounds do affect you. Even the people that are working in there. I feel more for the 50 people that have to be in that room and have to tolerate that than I do the people on the outside.
Yeah, I can't even
So
imagine.
they again, because we have so many of them, how are you protecting the employees of this place from enduring that? And then they're going to say, we let them work from home. And I'm like, all makes sense now.
Yeah.
All right. Niles, that area has power lines and the Mahoning River. Jay says, what am I missing? What's wrong with what Lordstown Council did? The data center coming has only been known for a couple weeks. Isn't it wise to hit pause before allowing potentially damaging impacts? They clearly aren't familiar with data centers who seem to have a bad rap. And I agree with that. But hitting a pause button, right, to investigate is different from we're going to hit a pause button so you can't do it and you hopefully move on.
Yeah. And that's one of the big issues here, Jay, is the lack of trust of, are you actually hitting pause to gather more information because you see the potential here and you want to do anything we can do? Or are you like, I don't really want to address this. I'm going to say pause. Really, I'm just going to go do my own thing.
They did a year pause. They investigated nothing. A year later, they created another pause. They put them on a 2-year moratorium to wait them out.
When you're really not looking into anything.
Right. That's late. Now, okay, let's just say city council said, or village council said, we're going to take a 60-day pause on this. Okay. I have 5 people in mind that I'm going to go talk to. I have 3 facilities that I'm going to go inspect. And in 60 days, I'm going to bring my findings back. And we might do another pause while we investigate more. But I will believe that more that you're actually going to go do something than just trying to outwait and make sure that they go somewhere else. That was my look at it. So I think every community needs to do due diligence. And I'm not even insisting that Lordstown accept the data center. All I'm saying is that I object to rejecting it immediately without cause.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing when you have people like me that talk up my community to other companies to say, come relocate, they'll love you. And when you embarrass me by being just
short-sighted and closed-minded,
anything from happening, I'm like, well, why did I put myself out there and vouch for my community when my community beats these people up as soon as they come through the door? And then I'm embarrassed. It hurts me to get more shit done. Like you told me your community would embrace this. So I never say that. I will never say that my community, if I brought an opportunity to the table, I would tell them ahead of time, hey, you know what? We got a bunch of old people. They go to fear first, and they're going to basically spend a bunch of time in the beginning hating everything about this. And we're going to have to talk them into it. And they're going to be hard to deal with. And that person's going to say like, well, there are other communities who are starving for this kind of stuff that won't do that. Right. Yeah. And I'm going to go there and they're going to be throwing confetti that somebody paid attention to them and brought this opportunity to the doorstep. You can't compete against that. You can't. And it's embarrassing. Lordstown did some with Altium. Then ultimately council made a deal to allow it. And that would be, I wasn't paying attention to that whole conversation. It would be interesting to see what they said that won them over. What do you think it was? If you were to take a guess, city council rejects us basically anything. Why did they permit Altium to do the build out that they did there?
He said maybe it was TJX, not Altium, but either one.
Okay, either one.
Yeah.
So why? What about them? Right. Let's build the paper trail. One gets told no. One gets told yes. Let's see what was unique about the one that was told yes. What did they say? What did they agree to?
Who did they know?
Who did they know? Who did they pay? I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's any one of those, and I want to see which one it is.
That would be interesting.
Dan, graphene, the carbon-based material used that is used to be more conductive than lithium-ion batteries and better for energy storage. Ooh, the MLO bros are kicking some of their opinions there. People who are against this stuff don't actually care about the environment, sound, or rising electric bills. They just don't want it near their property, which is fine. But instead of being honest about that, they dig in for excuses, try to find something they think everyone else will rally against, because deep down inside, they know if they came out and said, I don't want this by me, it's not as easy for people to rally against.
Yeah.
And then Matthew says, I live by a car wash that has constant vacuum noises. Tell me what makes them immune to it. That's a fair point.
Yeah, I lived in a town for a while before we moved back to Ohio, a town in Georgia that was known to be sort of out in the country, not a huge population, nice area to raise a family, good schools, kind of middle to upper income town. And along came a Family Dollar right down the street, and everybody pitched a fit. I can't believe they're going to put a Family Dollar out here. This is ridiculous. We don't want a Family Dollar. And they can say all they want. We don't want a lot of traffic. It's a quiet area. This is going to build it up, blah, blah, blah. When everybody knew, you're insinuating what demographic a Family Dollar will bring.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine there's a very simple, understandable rejection to this, wrapped up in all these other things that could easily be addressed. No, it's not going to do this. It may not be noisy. It may not pollute the water. It's not going to send vibrations into your home. It's going to create jobs. But like MLO Bro said is, I don't really like it by my house. Well, then say that.
So let's just say you lived in a proud community and it's affluent people, and you built your property there with the expectation that your representatives would keep riffraff out of your neighborhood, keep crime out of your neighborhood, keep the valuations going up on the property there. Now, make an investment, do that. Mm-hmm. So no Airbnbs, no wind turbines, no cell towers, no Family Dollars. We don't want any of that crap in here. And this is just a preserved and protected. We're going to go outside of our village. That's very nice. Martha's Vineyard, right? That kind of thing. Yeah. Picture like how important it is, that community. Just keep all that out of there. So it's fine if Lordstown wants to be that. But what I'm saying is Lordstown was built on the opposite of that. They are only requiring that it be a community because they already have they expensed a period of time and dealt with the traffic and congestion and the noise and the pollution of GM, because they benefited from it. Now they have theirs. They have their piles of money. They're in their vault. They're swimming in the gold coins, right? Mm-hmm. And now they're like, okay, we don't want that anymore. The next generation, the ones that need something to build their value and their wealth, not for them. I'm cool now. Leave me alone. So it's a different story. If Lordstown wants to put up a gate and put up a wall around them to insulate themselves from manufacturing, but they want the benefit from it, and they're enjoying the benefit of that, but at the same time being outraged that it even exists. And why do you expect me to contemplate it? That's the contradiction there.
Yeah.
OMG, Dollar General wanted to come to my little village and everyone lost their minds. However, they want business to come in. No, they don't. In Poland, people fought having Aldi's for F's sake, Aldi's, because it would bring in riffraff. Yes, that's exactly right. And a community can decide that. They do not have to be open to letting everybody in. You can discriminate against everything if that's what you want to do. You do.
Is Aldi associated with riffraff?
It's not a high-end Trader Joe's. It is a low-end, low-dollar amount, and it's going to attract people in your area. And it's, again, you can be whatever you want, and it's as long as it's legal.
I know. I'm just waiting for everyone to give me hate about bashing Family Dollar, and I'm not bashing Family Dollar.
But at these city council and village councils, and these people are not seasoned professional usually, right? And have you ever gone to a council meeting?
No.
Okay. So if you've got if non-contentious things, let's just say you're approving permits or giving people the blessing or whatever, usually the business of that entity is very fast-paced. Somebody says, hey, I bring this up and I want to do X, Y, Z. And you look around the room, make sure nobody opposes it. You go through the protocol of making sure somebody's objection can be heard. If there's no objection and you don't know much about it, guess what you do? You sign off on it. You don't do due diligence on everything that comes through there. You wouldn't be able to get anything done.
Yeah.
But if there is something that's contentious and the room is filled, what are you likely to do? All right. So I don't know about it, so I approved it. And I don't know about it, so I'm going to disapprove it. Right? You keep yourself protected from having to make a decision if it's something that will put you as a politician in hot water not to be elected again. Right?
Yeah.
And so the balance here is I think the momentum is on the side of the objectors, and they've got a good, they've got a good rationale to why they don't want a data center in there. And it just needs to balance on the other side of somebody poking their head up and saying smart things so that at least it's a counterbalance, and then people can make an informed decision. That's all I'm asking. Make it an informed decision. I don't have any interest. I don't make any more money if it goes there or it doesn't. The only people that I'm looking out for right now are my community, and whether or not the old people get bigger say or the young people who are going to benefit or, pay the ultimate consequence for it. And that's it.
Is this something you, by chance, you think could ever, if we're in this environment now that we have the old fogey sort of running things and squalling any innovation, could it come back around if our younger generation's more up to it? Or do you think it could be something
I think this is going to happen really lightning fast because they're putting so many of these things. I think the first
damage
round
could be done.
In the last time, there was so much investment money that was being spread out in the United States that people were building things because they were flush with cash. There's going to be a point where things consolidate, and they're not going to make those kind of investments in the same way that they are right now. They are going to be, let's just say, these small data centers that are putting together. There's going to be a point where they decommission them because they're just not powerful enough and they're inefficient, and they're going to have to build a new one. Well, instead of that, maybe pick a couple of the stuff where the public was easy to deal with. There was easier and cheaper utilities. They got their shit together. Well, they're just going to make those facilities bigger, right? And be more dense. And the ones that were kind of like a pain in the ass to deal with anyway, they're going to close those stores and bail on it anyhow.
So it's not just so much what it could bring now, but how open are we in the future to something even greater?
Exactly.
And stifling our growth.
I want to be part of the first waves of this happening because it gives us a seat at the dance. Is that it? No, seat at the table. I don't know what.
Seat at the table.
Seat at the table. It gives us a seat at the table when the next version of what's required to power AI is. I want to be an option then too.
Yeah.
And I just think after the first wave, they're going to have so many places to choose from that pick your 100,000, data centers that you put in there. Those are going to be your development cases, not let's go back to, Lordstown and see if they're willing to or ready yet.
Yeah.
It opens up the possibility of growth, not just for Lordstown, but for the whole Mahoning Valley. Technology is the future. If you don't want to get on board, you'll be left behind. Yeah. Yep. And there will be communities that will really, with enthusiasm, take that opportunity and slap that data center right in that community. But it's going to take one good operational one where we saw, it's not that bad. And then you'll want okay, I want to do it now that it's forged out. And the AI companies are like, we're kind of done with your area now. Yeah. Thank you so much for it. And then it's like, oh, how bad happened.
We've already got good relationships with
how'd that happen? And that's just the way these things usually play out.
Yeah.
If the younger get involved in their local politics, get involved in their councils, so they are making the decisions. Absolutely. And if you go to those city council, the people that show up are not in their 20s and 30s. They are not.
I'm sure.
They are not. But the next generation has so little belief that they want to be part of a system that is so incompetent and moves at a snail's pace that's not high octane enough for them.
You know what, though? And you're probably going to call bullshit on this, but I think it's a little, when we talk about younger people in their 20s, maybe early 30s, being more involved. Unfortunately, not that this is an excuse, that is a demographic that, for lack of a better way of phrasing this, are very busy and have their hands very full. They have little kids, babies, jobs, after work commitments. I could see people not coming to these meetings and not getting involved, not out of a lack of wanting to, but simply they are a demographic that is in just a time of their life that is very pulled in opposite directions and very time consumed. And so that's kind of another reason why it's always the older sort of retirees that have more time on their hands to go, and then they kind of take over that whole decision making.
I mean, you're right, because the system is archaic. You know what it needs?
What?
It needs some AI, right? To help speed up the process so that people that are interested can participate, that don't have 8 hours of retired time in the afternoon to go and sit through a meeting. It needs a condensed version where you can collect all of the information in a short segment and be informed by using software to kind of, if we had the computational power in the village of Lordstown, it could really package this thing together and roll it out to everybody who was interested. And then they could put they could put their opinion in there and let the AI roll that out to city council to see what they're really feeling. And let's average the age down so that younger people are involved in the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, my husband even sees this with like local VFWs, and yeah, we like getting involved and hanging out, and people say, "Oh, where have you guys been? We never see you." Well, dude, we have kids. Like we have after school commitments, and we have all kinds of stuff. We can't come to everything. And
and you might not agree with it, the small segment efficient way of decision making. You might not agree with it, and that's why you're at city council trying to make sure there are not enough data centers so that the product of information exchange doesn't innovate so that younger people could be involved.
Yeah,
you really like your slow moving 3-hour sessions that could be done in a half hour if we added some technology.
Yeah.
Let's see. Lordstown banned all data centers in the village, and I believe it's for 1 year, just like Youngstown did for the thermal exchange. Eats me up. They haven't been taught COVID
civics. She said civics, not COVID.
How did that autocorrect happen? How? They haven't been taught civics either.
Yeah.
Jason says many of these council and trustee meetings are intentionally scheduled where working people cannot regularly attend meetings. So if you're an easy day is that if we can put something at 2:00 in the morning, nobody will show up. So I can go down my laundry list and approve, disproved, and I'm out of there in a half hour, versus all these people coming in the room and questioning me and throwing out these long, speeches at me. Which one am I going to prefer?
You want it quick and easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Let me read my favorite comment. This is my favorite comment. Okay.
Oh my.
This was my favorite.
That's a paragraph.
Yeah.
It's long. So.
And this is from Angela. Angela was responsible for a couple of these. So there might be some that I've already read, but might as well read them. Okay. Excuse me.
Take a drink, take a breath, and breathe.
My husband and I are new residents in Lordstown who are very much against the data center in our village. There are many reasons for this, and maybe if you attended one of our council meetings to hear the concerns of the residents and the council members, you wouldn't be maligning and denigrating people who live here. For starters, the data center is going to employ very few people, and most of these jobs will be remote. So aside from those employed due to the initial construction, there'd be very few, if anyone, from our area who will be benefiting long-term employment-wise. Secondly, because these jobs are remote, we also won't be benefiting from the income tax. And because these are very high-tech jobs, there's no promise that anyone from our village will be hired to take the job. In fact, workers will probably come from Cleveland or Pittsburgh to work and then return to their homes in those cities. That's where their taxes will go. We will probably also be giving the company an abatement, so there goes the income tax. The lawyers are promising to build us a park and a swimming pool, which is not anything we need in our community. Our water and electric bills will increase. Water pressure will decrease. Meander Reservoir could very possibly be negatively affected. With 1 million gallons of water needed to start this place up, where's it going to come from? As well as the wildlife and pets because of the frequency and noise produced from the AI center. I personally have done a lot of research, and most of the communities that have data centers are very unhappy with them for a multitude of reasons. The people of Lordstown are not against bringing business into our area, but whatever business it is should be that which will definitely be an asset, not only to Lordstown, but the wider community. Data centers surely are not the answer. If they're so great, why does every community fight to keep them out? They can take these centers somewhere else. In fact, how about in your neighborhood, Joe? So that is a good question. Would I want a data center in my neighborhood? Sure. I love a data center in my neighborhood. I live in a place that is sort of surrounded by a lot of agriculture, open space that has not been developed. And so there are places that would really not affect anyone. And we've got lots of the same access to water that everyone else does. It's on the south side of the metro park. So there's lots of wetlands and water to choose from. Utilities and power there. I don't think there's much up this way that could provide enough power. So it'd probably be a downside where I just don't think we could pull it off. You get a little bit further south and they have some production, but I don't think my area would be a good power candidate. But as far as if I were on that, let's just say in Poland, or in Boardman, whichever would be housing this, I'd go to the council and I would have questions. I would make sure that we didn't do this stupidly. Would I want it in the lot next to my house? No, I wouldn't want it in the lot next. But that's not what we're going after. We're not looking to make people as miserable as possible. We're going to pick areas where we can accomplish all of the goals that the community has in line with the goals that the data center is. So there's some good points in that paragraph, and the water consumption we already addressed, the frequency and noise we already addressed. You taking the isolated incidents of data centers that did it wrong, right? I'm willing to hear everything that they did wrong, and as to make a list of things that we should not do when we do it. Right?
Yeah.
Why did Hubbard, for instance, why would Hubbard petition a data center out of their community?
I don't know.
Probably very similar composition of people who live there, right?
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of jobs. And the tax abatements, I think it is the most lazy thing for a city or village to give tax abatements. I think it's the laziest. And it's so common. So basically, when you're trying to get somebody to give your community you be the option, you bait them into it, and the benefit of dealing with you, hey, we'll suspend any taxes for like 5 years while you build up your company, because you're trying to get them to choose you, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say they've already chosen you, right?
Yeah.
Right. They already said, we love you. They already said,
we'll do it.
And you're not going to say, oh, but let me give you a tax abatement. They don't have to. You've already been selected.
Let me incentivize you. But I already said yes.
In the words of Julia Roberts, I'm a sure thing.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a sure thing.
So tax abatements aren't going to be necessary to get them into your community. So they shouldn't even really be on the agenda items. I think what my ask, if I'm this company coming into town, is, just hear me out. Hear me out. This is not going to affect you. We're gonna insulate you from all of the problems that other places have had. It's a small facility, so it's not even going to be disruptive as far as you're not going to have a 9-story building in this, and it's been done before. So just hear me out. Give me in good faith the ability to plead my case. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that stupid decisions sometimes set precedent. Yeah, if you see your other community doing it, then you dive into it and say, maybe they knew something that I didn't know. And maybe we should all be anti-data center. There's a lot of people that hate AI. I hate AI, right? But I'm also going to make money with AI. And I'm also...
You hate AI?
I hate AI. I hate it.
I thought AI was your bestie.
No. That is me coming to the conclusion that I can't stop it, and it's going to be there, and I got to take advantage of it as much as I possibly can.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah. I don't like all the downsides of AI. If I had a scepter and I can make AI right in all the different ways, I would definitely do it different. But I'm not in charge, and I don't have any say, and I'm not going to stop it. At the time, I was railing against it when decisions could be made, but since then, I wasn't listened to. So now I just got to take advantage of it. That's where I think Lordstown needs to, take all the ways that they can benefit from it and try to mitigate all the risks in it. But stopping it, I don't think is part of the equation.
I could see the water pressure being a concern.
Not in a closed system.
I was going to say, so that would take care of that, right? Closed system.
Closed system. You initially prime all of your piping. You suck in all the water. You fill your vats, your water tower. And so for a short time while you're filling the water you're buying from the village, yeah, you might have some low pressure while you're doing your initial filling, right?
Uh-huh.
But in a closed system, there's no evaporation. So the water that's going through the cooling tunneling and into the server room and into the condenser and to dissipate the heat, it gets pumped right back through. So the pumps are intra system. Doesn't use
so one-time
city utility.
inconvenience to then be off and running.
Honestly, make that part of the negotiation. Here, before you set up, build your own retention pond, collect your own water that comes down, and fill your big thing with the water that you collect from the weather.
Which is not new to our area. With the amount of road construction we see, we are used to having a short-term inconvenience and a workaround, and then we're off and running when it's done.
The open systems, yes, I can see where water pressure, because they're using a lot of I can't even say high pressure, they high volume circulation of water, and that would compete with whatever pressure your community was dealing with. And that's why closed systems are way more reliable, like way more, a lot of more communities, closed system is way more appealing for them. Now, like in the instance of what XAI is doing in their data centers, they have an open system. That's the filtration. So that would be an objection if it was being floated that it's an open system. But the contamination and the pollutants and the unusable water, like those aren't even real. I could see it happening. So think of the piping for cooling systems is you're taking water that is at regular air temperature. You're putting it through pipes that never come in contact with anything other than the pipes that they're traveling through. So you're taking it through like a heat sink where it collects power. Maybe it's an aluminum or something that has conductivity or can basically retains some of that heat. And you're flowing water through there to pick up that heat and then move it away from the electronics that's being powered. So that water never comes into contact with anything unless your pipes are polluted and you spray it with some kind of mercury or whatever. Then you can get contamination, but there's nothing it's coming in contact with to be contaminated. So a lot of these things, again, are fear-based. I read it on Reddit types of things, and there might be a circulating how to put up a fight against innovation, and they send all these talking points out and people just accept them as truth. They might not know any better until they hear differently.
Fear mongering.
Yeah.
Jason says some data centers use filtered and treated wastewater on open loop systems as well.
Yeah, XAI. It's amazing that they and that I think companies that take the objections and build it into their innovation are far different than what the steel mills did, right? Would you think anybody would have objected to steel mills if they were being built in today's deal?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if they use water to cool down steel, and you got a bunch of iron contaminants in there, and you're like, what do you do with this iron contaminated? Just dump it in the river. Okay, we've been there, right? So we have good reason to make sure they're not doing that, but we can't insist that they're doing that when they're not doing that, and they have technologies to make sure that never happens again. So if you're 90 years old and you saw that shit go down, I can see why there should be some concern in your voice.
But then be open to see how they have fixed it or plan to deal with it.
Just ask the question. Hey, we don't want you to pump any pollutants into any of our lakes or stream. And the person on the side says, oh, it's a closed system. We don't do that. We keep the water contained. And if we ever have to dispose of it, we'll do it properly. We'll run it through a filtration system. And then you say, oh, okay, thanks for answering my question.
Yeah. Do you have a way to insulate us from noise or humming or vibrations or bothering the animals? Well, here's this whatever.
Yeah, here's my answer. And say, oh, okay, I was wrong. Cool. But if we had a city council meeting where they were talking about a company and what they're going to do, and having someone from the company that's sitting there that could be like, oh, I could feel that one. Yep. I could say about that one. That would be valuable.
I'd like her. So she had said, I've sat in these council meetings. You haven't. Well, then tell us, in the council meetings, did you get answers from the company about all these concerns? Or did everybody just say, I have this concern and this one and this one and this one and this one, and what are we going to do about all these concerns? Oh, you're right. That seems pretty risky. No. Or was there a representative or somebody who is knowledgeable on this to address everyone? And there may have been.
There wasn't. I read the minutes of these things. I won't sit through it. Yeah. And I'll pipe it into AI to break it down to see what was said, and gives me a really good summary of what the council meeting had. And so they had an email that was written by the company that they read, and this was on the onset of the project. So it did not take any of the, recent objections to it and respond to it. But it would be help. But again, if this company was putting feelers out to see how open you are and they've already moved on from you, would you fly somebody out to convince a community when they truly have stated that they
they don't want to hear it?
They don't want to hear it. So why would I waste time doing that? So it depends on.
It's not even like we said, hey, we are interested. Could you come tell us more? It's nope. No. So then, why would they come tell you more?
Right. How much do you want to invest to win that community over when there's 1,000 other people to date? You're not going to invest that. Yeah. So then your community has to be hungry enough for something, right, to beckon them in. And it all depends who's in the advantage, disadvantage. And right now, the Lordstown is at a disadvantage, shrinking shrinking tax base and always needing subsidized money because they were built on money that was free flowing before and not so much anymore. They're the vulnerable ones, right? And the company that has 1,000 dating partners, right, is not coming from a position of weakness.
Yeah. They have the upper hand.
They do. And the upper hand is just not choosing you, right? So I have 10 dating partners. Talk to number one, and they're high maintenance, just whiny, whatever. Now, if they were the only one, I might try to make that work. But if there is 9 after that one that, has to be good in different ways, move on to the next one. And I don't fight for the one. I only do that when I'm desperate. But if there's 10, just move on to the next one. And you might still complain and think I'm a jerk for not giving you a second thing. And you fought a little overly hard, and maybe you had too many standards, and maybe you felt you can get away with whininess, whatever. But when you get moved on from, now you're a little bit mad and like, how dare they not fight for me a little harder?
So I was thinking, what industry then does prosper here? And you had kind of mentioned yesterday, medical.
Yeah, pharmaceutical distribution, nursing homes,
because
clinics,
of this elderly sort of in charge.
The elderly public. And I'm just making a flippant charge. Like, I do want to know, in your community, what would you welcome? They mentioned building parks and whatever. Maybe that's not what the community wants or needs.
Like she said, we don't need that.
Right. So what is it? What do you want? What prosperity are you hoping for? What industry are you hoping knocks at the door? And you can't wait for that one to come through.
That is a good question. What could we bring to this area that would be so beneficial to us that it outweighs any risks? I don't know. Well,
if you take things that are happening in our economy and make predictions about what will start locating, things that get shut off from international sources have a chance to build and develop an industry here. So let's just say furniture. We're getting furniture from Canada. Trump punches Canada in the face and says, we don't want your furniture anymore. Then the United States are like, hey, you know what? We still want to sell furniture, but we got to make it here. And so they start going around trying to get furniture manufacturing in different areas. They'll do the same thing. Now, the difference is that furniture and clothing and lumber and all of that, those are just regular business models. There's not an increase in demand where they're going to overnight just get gobs of money dumped on them, because they're not at the forefront of an innovation. They're just regular commercial goods, right? Retail goods. And so that's boring, and it takes many years to build up to the point where it would be lucrative. But then you have cutting edge stuff like data centers and AI and batteries and anything that there's a huge demand and we just do not have enough of them. They're going to free flow spending money. So if I want to pick one that happens fast and makes a lot of impact versus one that's a little slower grower, if I'm risk averse and I don't want, I want to pick the one that's most boring to me, I'd pick the furniture, the clothing, the lesser risky one. And that's sort of like, that's what I would expect to hear from someone who did pick an industry. It's going to be terribly boring.
Carrie says auto industry.
Yeah, totally could do auto industry. They're geared for it, right?
Yeah.
Lordstown Motors didn't happen the way that we all had hoped that it would, but it's got a facility. It's got all of the wiring and the lines and even some equipment in there. It could, right? But is there an influx in manufacturers looking to build more facilities, or is there more that manufacturing is going elsewhere and shutting down and becoming more efficient and scaled down? Like, That's not one I would pick if I were going to, if you look at the balance sheets of all of these car manufacturers besides Ford.
Jonathan says, when I lived in Boardman, risk equals change. They don't like change, so everything is a risk. What should have happened a long time ago when YBI was getting coverage would have been to make it ultra attractive to recruit and retain people on tech like me and others who have moved to communities that have been more supportive.
That is 100%. And I'm just telling you that I have been invited to other marketplaces, other cities, other areas, and I have turned them down to have a presence here in the Mahoning Valley. And it is at my own peril that I do this, because I know I could be making a ton more money in other markets. I really could. And why I feel beholden here is because I got my start amongst people who was supportive, and they did throw their loyalty behind me. And I've always felt like I owed my community back, even if it's a fight, even if it's telling them things they don't want to hear. If I'm to be trusted with good decision-making and good instinct when it comes to things, well, I got to be at the forefront of it, pushing back against the people who, if they get their way, nothing would happen. You become a stagnant community that latches on to things that happened 90 years ago and won't come off it, that stuff's not coming back. And you got to build a future ahead of you that is into something. You believe in something. Your mission is, do we just cater to the people who have already lived their life and give them all the conveniences that an 80-year-old would love to have? Or do you cater to the young people who are being churned out of university with high intellect and ability and strategy? Who do you want to leave, right? Do you want your kids to stay here, or do you want them to leave? Anyway.
Tracy says, easy factory work that pays well enough for young people to make a good living.
Government used to offer tax refunds on interest of auto, spur the industry on tax rebates. Yeah, that subsidized stuff helps short term, hurts long term.
Is that why GM's doing all these layoffs? They're saying it's because of low sales of electric cars.
So vehicles are in a really tight spot. Okay, they usually, when the conditions in the marketplace change abruptly so often, it takes GM to think what consumers are going to want 5 years from now, not what they're going to need next month. So if they start putting their money into trucks, right, and all of a sudden fuel gets too high, maybe trucks aren't in demand anymore, by the time they're rolling stuff out on their assembly line, you're creating a product that was cool like 6 months ago, but no, it cooled and now it's not as popular.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, well, EVs are the future. So you start rolling out EVs, and all of a sudden EVs cool. And now all of a sudden you're always making a product that you can't predict what's going to be popular 6 months or 6 years from now. And so they're at a big disadvantage because the economy is happening so fast and there are changes that are happening so fast. It's hard for them to, if I'm going to maneuver a facility of 10,000 people versus moving a much smaller facility, right, of 1,000 people, I'm more nimble when I'm smaller. So car companies are like, hey, we can't produce 1,000, be wrong by 1,000 pickup trucks that nobody wants to buy. I'd rather only produce 100 of them. And if I'm wrong, then I'm only out 100 rather than 1,000.
So what industry is so easily adaptable that it can survive multiple changes and innovation?
What would I pick? It'd probably be in data and technology that has a better adaptability. And maybe if we had some infrastructure that would house that, data centers and good electricity grids and data connections that are fast and cheap, I'd probably do that one. So Tracy, I agree with you that we're going to have to find a labor force in some industry. And learning to code or learning AI is a tough ask when you've got so many, people in the trades that, we want to build houses. We want to build commercial properties. We want to build big industrial facilities. They want to be doing something. And maybe the best thing that we can give them to construct are data centers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Carrie says, electric cars are too glitchy. People don't trust them, and mechanics are not trained well to repair electronic systems. My dad pitched an idea.
Yeah.
Knowing that I work for a computer company, and he had said, why not get into computer repair in the auto industry and repairing all the computers that are in vehicles? What do you think about that idea? Is that something that is just not lucrative, unrelated, potential?
So, all right. we'll use Tesla as an example because I have firsthand familiarity with them. They have a lot of closed systems, right? So it's extremely complicated to do repairs on something that have a user interface, and then all the stuff that makes it work is buried deep inside an engine compartment or into the actual chassis of the car. Yeah. So if I wanted to fix, let's just say I had a sensor that went bad in the bumper, right? There's like 5 miles of cabling and wires that go through that car, and you have to disassemble and remove the battery packs. I'd have to put the car up. I'd have to have a battery pack removal thing that lowers the battery down so I can get up into the system where the wiring is. The people who are trained by Tesla know where all that stuff is, and they have all the tools for their closed system. And so it's much easier for the manufacturer to support the electronics than it is an outside. There's no standardization. They don't have to do. So if you worked for Tesla and then you went out and became a Tesla certified independent repair person, that could be, but there just isn't enough work, right? So when something in electronics breaks in Tesla, what do you think it costs me? $0. I just take it to the place and they fix the electronics thing and they give it back to me and I drive away, right? So as a repair thing, how do I compete with the manufacturers are building the repair costs into the product that they sell so that when they repair it, it's no cost to the consumer.
Far more complicated and time consuming than there is business to make up for.
Yeah. Maybe someday if there's standardization and you buy your GM car that has electronics in it, that the the panel in the front and all the wiring harnesses are the same. It's still going to be far too complicated for a computer company because of that. But I don't know. Some things, yes. Most things, no.
Jonathan says, great show, by the way. I don't even live near Ohio anymore, and I listen when I can. Thanks, Jonathan. And catch it in the feed. Also, tech will always be durable. It spans across industries, healthcare, manufacturing, software, data centers, etc.
100%. That is the recommendation that I give my son and everybody where they're starting to select what they want to do with their world. Where you can't go wrong is in data. You cannot. If you're in the engineering side, if you're in the
Jonathan, if you don't mind me asking, where do you live, or where did you end up moving to sort of find what you're looking for?
Carrie says, worked in auto industry for 40 years, saw how training was not great, saw how it died a death by 1,000 cuts. Best option is gas electric hybrid, like the very successful Prius. And especially if the energy policies of this administration bring energy costs even down. We watched it go from $3.49 to $3 to $2.49 and maybe even down to $2. That's a game changer when it comes to fuel is not so expensive that it governs how you drive or what you drive. Right. If you have an open option where you don't care about what your gas costs every time you fill up, that opens up different options of what you buy when you're looking for a car. When gas is $3.49, electric is very, it's a very good option because you're saving. I pay $125 a month in charging my car, and I drive 130 miles a day. And so when you take it down where you're paying almost $3 a gallon, I'm paying like 8 cents. So it's definitely, advantageous when fuel prices are high. So
Jonathan lives in Lakeland, Florida.
Nice.
Between Tampa and Orlando. Took the move with 3 kids and wife who's an RN.
Frank says the MLO Bros once had a save a lot. The
MLO Bros
once had a save a lot. Don't forget that.
Like they owned a save a lot?
I think he was responding to MLO Bros because they brought up the save or the Aldi's. And so he was saying that we
once had a save a lot. Don't forget that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some communities can put up that barrier and say they don't want certain things in the community and they can survive without it, and they're cool with that. They know the upside, they know the downside of keeping those things out. And if I'm a company, there are plenty of areas that want me in there. I don't have to fight against a community that absolutely doesn't want me to be there. I mean, that's go the easiest route, right? And definitely not the easiest route. We talked about Lordstown the entire effing show, and I hate that, but I love that.
wish I could have had better input. I feel like I just.
But now you feel let's just say I went to since I don't go to council meetings, but what if I did?
Yeah.
And I just said everything that I said here. Do you think everybody in that room would walk away feeling maybe just a little bit, ashamed of the fight they put up now that they have this new knowledge that I bestowed upon them?
No.
I
think it depends on the person. If anything, the political climate we've been living in for a while now is people don't care about factual information anymore. They have already decided how they feel about something, and you cannot change their mind. Now, some maybe it may be better. I don't think you could hurt anything, but I think you still, if you've got someone that is closed-minded and not open to the idea of even hearing any answers, then they're not going to.
See, I like the drug dealer model, right? It's
model?
most effective. The first hit's for free, right? You got to get somebody the first hit for free. So this is an example of.
I don't hang out with drug dealers. I don't know that.
Okay, all right. I might not either.
You, on the other hand, knew that.
Suspicious.
Just saying.
So one of the early. This is probably customer number 3, right? This is an auto dealership that they are not an auto dealer, auto repair. Did painting and Bondo work, and after a crash they fix your car. And this dude had an office full of nothing but what are those things called? We put paperwork in,
like filing cabinets?
All filing cabinets, right?
Yeah.
There was one thing that he had in his office that required a computer, right? And it was an early computer, but it was necessary for, I think, to order parts or do color matching or something like that. But it wasn't even a real computer. It was just a pseudo computer. And he hated that thing that he used to be able to call it in and the guy shows up and just like all analog everything. And I was like, this guy, he's going to need some help, because it was a requirement that he was going to have to start doing stuff and he didn't want to do it. So he was like, bare minimum, give me this thing. And I don't want to even do it. I hate it. And I'm like, dude, the technology is the future. You're going to be so much more able. You can get things done faster, parts orders. And I didn't say this, but now I'm saying this. And so what I did was I set up a really old computer on his desk. And the guy, he had friends that would come through and give him stock tips. And he was a small investor in a lot of different companies at the time. And I set up a computer and I gave him access to see his stock prices without having to look through the freaking newspaper. He hits a little refresh button and you get a stock quote on his desktop. And so he'd come in the morning, hit his little stock
his language,
code, right? And so he loved hitting that little button to see where the stock prices were. I think it was Yahoo at the time, or I don't know, Alta Vista, whatever it was. It was really not useful, not real-time quotes, but he loved hitting that little button, right? And that was the intro into, I like paperwork, but this one's kind of gooder. I like this one a little gooder.
I like it with this.
And so the first day was free, and then we started exploring more of the stuff that he did like and was an improvement. He could see it and do it on his own terms. And he eventually warmed up that if you walk into his office now, there's no more filing cabinets in that office. He writes out he still has some physical carbon paper receipts when he's walking with a customer doing an estimate, but he takes that and filters it right in through his insurance company, their website, and almost everything is digital. And I believe, because I got him addicted to stock quotes, right, on a stupid old antiquated computer.
That is addiction.
I did.
You are the drug dealer.
I know. And if you just give me a chance, I'll give you some good stuff, and you'll be chasing the good stuff for the rest of your career.
I don't know if we're going to win over people by saying I'm the drug dealer and I'll get you hooked.
At least you'd know where I'm coming from. Like if I wanted to take 80-year-old in Lordstown and I got to think of a way to give them a hit of data centers, I don't even know what I would do. I don't know what direct benefit any person could get from a product that serves an abstract infrastructure that I don't even know what it looks like.
You want to watch your favorite programs all the time and not have to fight with the TV?
Oh, man, it's gonna be hard to get them addicted to that. Maybe show them like ChatGPT or Grok and make them friends and say, hey, this thing that you're asking questions,
like play games with you and solitaire and
all you got to do is say him. Well, he is hosted on that thing that's down the road. And you say something like, what's the weather going to be like, Mr. Grok? The weather is going to be perfect here in Lordstown, Ohio. Your water is pure and your air, you can't even hear any noise from the data center. Thank you for shopping at Grok.
They're going to be like, government's listening to me. I don't want that.
It's a thought.
I don't want people listening to me. Brian says, you want to experience closed-minded people firsthand, just go to Poland. The MLO bros can attest to that firsthand as well. They only want to save the library, hate anything that brings progress to the area, as they are all afraid of hurting their property values.
Do you put blame, though, on councils and people who are in administrative positions that don't adequately present the case before they vote on it or talk about it? I think there's a lot of miscommunication, a lot of failings in accuracy of data, because the way that we talk about it isn't standardized.
Do you think ever the person who's presenting it is already biased and he's going to put that
or
into
they
their
just don't do that for a living? They're a public servant who, doesn't take that part of their job seriously. Where, you know what I mean? They're just a cog, more or less.
If they've got to present something that they don't even fully understand, I'm sure it's not going to come across well.
And especially if they don't really have any direct benefit in saying yes or no to something. Like if I came to the city council for a liquor license, right? And the city council, all they're worried about is their decision is going to hurt my opportunity to get reelected in this. This is a blemish. So all they want to hear is like, hey, you know what? If this goes south, if somebody gets stabbed because you gave me a liquor license, I won't blame you. Or here's $50,000. Make sure my liquor license now direct benefit. You see what I mean? There's no incentive in order to, help the community logically weigh these different things. So.
Brian says social media is the bane of rational conversation and being self-informed.
For sure.
This evil social media. Don't even get me started.
I'm not saying anything.
I know.
All right. We got a couple minutes here. Anything else you want to, that's not related to data? So I didn't want to say that word anymore.
This is a little political and we probably don't have time to deep dive.
Let's do it anyway.
There's something I am noticing, and I don't know how I feel about it yet. I don't know enough information yet, but I'm noticing it, and I feel like we need to be careful. We've talked many times about how much we hate the ridiculous emotional appeals that people on certain sides of politics try to make. If you disagree with someone, you want to hurt them, you go after dumb things. You say that they said something they didn't say. You try to bash their character. You do all these different things because you just need to make them look a certain way. And what I hated was so much seeing people on the left bash people on the right. You're a bigot, you're a Nazi, you're a racist. And then it's like, okay, well, we've seen numerous evidence to the contrary. No, they're not. This is dumb. Stop name calling. You got nothing. And I'm wondering if now the right is getting in on that when it comes to this Mandami. Yeah, of New York.
Yeah, Zoran Mandami.
Yes. I don't know a whole lot about him yet.
Okay.
Looking into it, trying to find interviews, trying to see what he himself says and in the context of everything. And at the same time, I am seeing people on the far right constantly bash the fact that he is a Muslim, and they compare that to 9/11. And again, I don't know much about him yet. But I feel like that's a slippery slope when all of us were just saying we were defending Elon Musk when he basically questioned how long are people of German descent going to pay for what Hitler did? They have nothing to do with that. How long do we expect Caucasians to pay for bad decisions and things that slave owners did with our ancestors had nothing to do with us? So if you're coming in and you're saying somebody of Muslim descent is now in a position of power and leadership, and you automatically associate them with terrorists in 9/11, I feel like there's a slippery slope there. Now, I know people are saying, it depends on what he won't condemn and things he has claimed to support. And again, looking into that. But when I see these people that are just automatically no Muslims in leadership, it should only be Christians, blah, blah, blah. Are they not doing the same thing?
They are. The die has been cast. Turnabout is fair play.
Yes.
When you see it happen, it will always be that way now. So just get used to it.
Yeah.
That's just
I almost want to point
strategy.
out to them, like, wait. I thought we learned about this. I thought we said, don't be like one side. Don't do the dumb name calling. Don't associate them with evil people in the past that have nothing to do with them. We all said we didn't want that put on us. And now you can't then do that back. It's this, yeah.
All right, so let me throw this out. I do have concerns and fears for him being the mayor of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say that, he's going to orchestrate a 9/11 and they're doomed, because that's silly.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that he has a respect or a like for what is America? Like what made New York City into the financial epicenter of the entire world. Like if you know that has to be lifted and preserved, and make sure that we always are what got us there, what's required then to nurture it so it stays the financial and economic epicenter of the world, right? Do I believe that he has a grasp on what made New York City into New York City? I do not. I think he is he has a little disdain for an Americanized city, and he wants to bring an influence from what he does believe in, which is, I'm not gonna play the game of saying that he's the Hitler of the Democrats.
Yeah.
But I don't think that New York City was chosen by accident. Number one,
chosen by him.
Him to run in New York City was done. Like he didn't run in Nashville, Tennessee, the epicenter of the economics. And what is the force that is directly opposite of the capitalism that built New York City? Socialism. So you have a socialist of a dissent, of a sort of a philosophy that hates everything about what New York City is. So my flags go up to say, if this is an external force to cripple a city, I'm going to be super, really taking the information. And if I see that we've got a Manchurian candidate in there that is looking to destroy an economic, I'm open to that. He hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
He said some things that, lead in that direction, that he doesn't like a whole lot of what's going to happen. But I think he's going to be annoying. I think he's going to make some bad decisions, but I think he's going to get neutered fast if he does anything that's off the reservation. So yeah. I'm not fearful. It's going to be a great experiment as we create. New York City is now New Uganda City. And we're going to see how that plays out by taking, philosophies from non-American states and seeing if it works here.
And like you said, it's sort of kind of cutting him off if he does anything crazy. Like that was another thought I had when people started freaking out when he was elected. I'm like, if God forbid he were to do anything so detrimental, we don't have the ability to be like, no, we're not doing this. Like he's just an all power of New York to do whatever he wants. Or is it like you said, he's going to get neutered. We're going to cut it off right?
Well, okay. Minneapolis was something similar. We imported a bunch of culturally diverse people into Minneapolis, and it changed what Minneapolis is and was. And the people who live there are tolerating it. Nobody's getting cut off at the knees, literally or metaphorically. And they're, the communities around them are not doing that. So it's contained within an area that, created a population center of a different type of people, and they're managing cultural differences the way that they're managing it. There's downside, upside, but it's not here. So we're willing to.
Could that just devil's advocate sort of be why he would have an interest there? Is it sort of like if America's a melting pot, New York is the center of the melting pot. Like it has culture, it has different backgrounds. It
was a capitalism success that allowed the cultural influence that it had. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
Because you can take somebody who didn't have the same prosperity that New York City did, and we're not clamoring to introduce culture in places that don't have a bunch of money flying around.
I see. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Julie said she was Can you scroll up a
sure.
smidgen? I am confounded about the extreme interest in New York City. Tracy says, never heard bad things about him being Muslim. However, I've heard he's a socialist and a commie.
Yeah, that's what has most of my concern. Doesn't have a good relationship with what built the city he's now mayor of.
The ability to lead New York City, the ability to make good decisions, the ability to know how to make them prosper, all those things, totally on the same page. But when I hear these people go, oh, how quickly we forgot 9/11. I can't believe
lazy.
I was like, whoa, now you're no better than the far left that did the same thing.
Yeah. So I'll give you a real one. So he believes that it's a construct of putting people in jail for violent crimes. Right. Mm-hmm. And we had Rudy Giuliani, who came on the scene, and his sole mission statement was clean up crime so that business can get done. And he spent a decade cleaning it up so that it was safe. Wasn't all of it still had problems, but didn't have the problems that they had in the late 80s and into the early 90s. And so if you have a guy that's now mayor that doesn't believe that people should be incarcerated, and you start releasing people into the public that commit violent crimes and break the law, right? We go back 25, 30 years now, and now New York City is crime infested. That's a real concern.
You know what it feels like?
What?
Remember the movie Ghostbusters, where the Ghostbusters are like, don't shut it off. Yes, he's like, shut these machines off right now. Don't shut it off. And then he's like, and everything.
It is true. He is a dick.
Feels like Ghostbusters.
Or he has no dick. He has no dick. Yeah. But anyway, that's a real concern. And that doesn't take into account if anybody had the philosophy to let criminals out on the street after having just cleaned it up. It's a bad policy. We can all agree. And socialism and inflicting socialism on New York City. I think New York City is strong enough that it can survive a term from, an extremist like that. He's going to do some stuff. He's going to make people miserable who live there. He's going to create crime and make them miserable in a different way. But he's going to be gone. He's not going to be able to wreck it fast enough before he can be voted out and say, man, we had a bad choice. This was
me yesterday when I was like, I'm just not so torn up about it. And maybe I'm an incurable optimist, probably. But it is going to be an interesting experiment to see, I've seen all these other people say, hey, there's a whole group of people out there that wanted this to happen. Let them see, let them, and then maybe they'll get over it. So it is going to be an interesting experiment. I don't know, like you said, if New York can be crippled by one person so quickly. Is it going to get bad? Maybe. But
it sets up a Giuliani to run next time, a Giuliani in the metaphorical sense.
Well, that's why Trump says all the time, this is the best thing that could have happened to the Republican Party. He's like, just watch what happens, and then they'll all come this way. So we'll see if that happens.
All right, we're out of here. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.